Hello there! Welcome to my channel, I'm B. Today we're going to make something fun, an animated door. I have this little robot right here, and when I'm close to this door I can go through the door. So when I press my A button or the E key on the controller, the door opens and I can go there. So we're gonna animate this door with timeline and with a little bit of code. This is the final door that I have prepared for this tutorial, and it's a blueprint door which extends from this class called door. This class also extends from another parent class which is an basic interactive. I use this template a lot because it contains some basic elements, some basic functionality, and it's basically contain a root scene to contain everything else, an interactive mesh. It's not really necessary, but it helps me to have a basic mesh. In this case, it's the frame of the door. And then it contains, this is a lookat point, which I'm not gonna use in this tutorial, and an interactive collision, which is the basic collision which detects when the player is in range or inside this collision or is out. So I use this template a lot. I'm gonna link in the description below the template and the code for the door, so it's easier for you guys to follow along. But if you want the complete project, you can find it on itch.io. I have the complete series with all of the projects, and I update this every time. So we are in the episode 14, and I'll include the project files with a PDF with the instructions. Take a look and follow along with me. The first thing we need to do for this door is to create a class, the C++ class. So right click on the content browser, new C++ class, and because I'm gonna use another parent class, we need to click on show all classes, and let's type basic interactive or interactive base, this one. So I'll show you the code of this, but we need to select this one. Then we go next, and we can set a name. And it's giving me this error because I already have this class prepared. But then if we set one, we can create class. I'm not gonna do that because this would take longer, but this is the process. When the compile finishes, you will have this door which is empty, and it will extend from this interactive base. For the door, as you can see, it's very simple. It has a boolean to detect if the door has been opened before or not. In this case, this door is going to be opened just once. If you want a different logic, you have to do something like first time open, then it will maybe close after a few seconds, and then you can set this to false again. But my door is just simple, you can open that door once. Then we have this implementable event with a delay, and this is gonna be called when we interact with the door. And finally, we have the the function interact overriding, which comes from the parent class. Let's check now the door CPP, and as you can see, it's super simple. Interact will be called from the player controller, and it will be called when the user or the player press the A key, and in my case I also have the pad on the input controller. We will check if it's open, and if it's not, we don't want to do anything, and we just simply call the open door. We also disable the collision, so there is no collision and there is no way to interact with the door again, and we set this to true. So super simple. Let me show you real quick how the interactive base works. So as you saw on the blueprint, it contains these elements, This lookat point comes from another tutorial. You don't really need that, but it's the lookat point that you use when the robot to look at some point in the interactive. But it contains a root scene, static mesh, and the box component, which is the element to do the collision. Then we have a reference to the main character and the main player controller, because we're going to use these two elements. The begin and end overlap, which are the events for the box component. Boolean to indicate if the interactive is enabled, and set enable, and the function interact. The most important thing here is we have all the sub-object created, and the basic interactive, the events for the basic interactive when on component begin overlap or on component end overlap. And these two events are important because they are going to detect if there is an actor on the box component area. And we basically do, this is the main thing. On the begin overlap, if it's enabled, we check if it's the main character. In this case, it's the robot. And then we take if it's the we take the reference of the main player controller, because I use this sometimes on the childs of this class. And this is the main bit. This current character calls this function, and I send a reference to this InteractiveBase. This is because from this current player controller, I'm going to get the current InteractiveBase and call the function on interact. The way I do this is because this is a template, so instead of having reference to each door or any other interactive child element, I use the InteractiveBase with this basic function, so it's very handy. The other way to do this is through interfaces, but with a base class this works. And on end overlap, we call this here interactive in range, which only does set to null the reference to the InteractiveBase. Let me show you real quick how the reference works. So this is the InteractiveBase current interactive, which is detected right here with this function. Then we have this getter, because I'm going to access this from the player controller. And both functions are simply set interactive in range and clear interactive in range. If we go to the CPP, we can see it's just set the reference and set the reference to null. We can simplify this with just one function, but I have more code which comes from previous tutorials, and I have different logic. But for a basic interactive, you can just have one function, and you can send here the reference or just null. Okay, on the main player controller, I have this function which is attached to the input. I have the face button, but I also have the E key on the keyboard. So it calls this interact function. What it does is very simple. I take a reference to the main character, which is the pawn that is controlling this main player controller, and I detect if I check if I have any interactives, and I call interact. So when the player presses E, it will call interact, which again is this function, and it will go to the door. This function is override. So it will do this logic, and that's it. It's very simple and very usable for other type of interactives. With this C++ door created, we can create a blueprint based on that. To do that, the way I do it, I go to the C++ class, I find my new interactive, in this case it's this door. Select that one, right click, create blueprint class based on door. Then I find a location, blueprints, interactive example, and I set a name. I'm going to create a new one to show you the rest. So you will have all of this. see all of this comes from the parent, so there is nothing yet from the door. Now I can start doing, and I have a door already prepared, but you can use just boxes. And so for me, I'm gonna use a door, which I wanted a door frame. Okay, then I'm gonna adjust this, which is the interactive collision for the player. That maybe that's too much. This right there, and yeah, that should be okay. Okay, this will be the basic. And my example, I also have this and the bottom part, because I'm gonna move down the bottom part with a timeline and the top part. So let's create the same element. So as a child, I'm gonna do another static, add another static component, static mesh, and it's gonna be the bottom one, door, bottom part, and we can set this a name, bottom, and I'm gonna do the same with the other one, static. This top part, top. Okay. Okay, with this we will have the door ready. And the last thing I'm gonna do is to create a box collision, so the player can't go inside this unless this door is open. So we can just have a box, simple box. And my static mesh don't have any type of collision. You can set that when you import the static mesh. Oh. Okay. Something like that. Yeah, so the player can't go inside unless this collision is not disabled. I'm gonna set this block, for example, and important, this needs to be set to block all dynamic, so the player won't be able to go. We are ready to put this door on the level. So I'm just gonna move this one and select my new one. Right there. And then if I try to use this, oops, okay, a bit. If I press the E key, nothing happens because we haven't done the animation. I'm just gonna move this down. Okay, that should be good. We can continue now. And one thing I'm gonna do is not use the can look at. Don't worry about that. This is from another tutorial. Okay, now we can animate both parts. We're gonna use a timeline. And first thing we need is the event that we created. So event on open door. This will only happen when we have when the player press E key. So I'm gonna use a delay because I was sending this value as half a second after the action happens. I don't think it's really necessary because you can just have a delay right here or not use it at all. Okay, next thing, we're gonna animate both parts. So we're not gonna do three things: play a sound and the animation. So let's use this sequence node to do three things at the same time. with 3 pins. And the first theme is I'm gonna play a sound because it's nice to have some kind of sound when there's some actions. So I have these. That one is okay. Get actor location. Yeah, we can use the get actor location for that. So we'll have this sound, and then we're gonna have 2 timeline animations. So to do that, we can add timeline animation, and this is gonna be the top part. Okay. Actually, instead of play, we should use play from the start to prevent any kind of errors. Sometimes this play doesn't work very well, so play from the start works better. It will ensure that we use the animation plays exactly on the start. Now we can do double click, and let's first add a flow track, because what we are going to do is move the relative position of each element on the set value. So if we go here, for example, we have this in 0, 0, and then we're gonna do this movement right there. And I know is 180, and for the other one will be minus 180. So that's the animation we are going to do. Okay, so let's go back. So now we can set a name there. Rename and set value, for example. And my animation is gonna last always 75. And now we're gonna start adding keys. Let's add 2, and this one is start on 0, 0. With the value 0, 0, and I'm doing the top part, so this set value will be 0.5, and it will be 875. Now we can click on this one so we can see clearly, and let's smooth this out. So we can use the user, and here as well, user, and we can just do a curve, so it will do a smooth, this type of a smooth movement. You can have something like that maybe, so it will go over that and then go down, that's nice. That's the first one done. So now we simply get the top, set relative position, location, and then we can split this because we only want to change the set value. Go there, and we use the update. Right, and for the other one, we just can copy and use the same one, but we just need to change some values. Bottom part. We're going to do the same, play it from start, take the bottom, relative position, and then we just want the set value and on the update. Okay, now we have to modify this one because this one ends on the other side, so -1, and we need to adjust this a little bit. And let's do being crazy like that. Okay, last thing we are going to do, for example, when this is finished, we're going to disable this collision. So set collision, enable, and let's set no collision. And it doesn't matter which one use, so we can just use this one. Let's give it a try. Okay, so this guy can go, and we have the sound, and we can go. Yep, and that's it. That's very, very simple. So a few things. In my case, I'm just using the set value, but if you have, for example, a common door, you can just use the rotation and the axis that you need. For example, you could do that, like that, and it will be the same. You will need the pivot point on that side, not on the middle. In my case, my doors both have the pivot point on the right place. That's important, otherwise you're gonna have issues. Timelines are very useful for this type of thing, so you don't have to create this animation on Blender or something like that. You can just do it this way. And basically that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you like it, and if you did, please subscribe and like, it helps. And see you next time on the next video. Bye!